What's up, everybody? Well, today I'm here to bring to you another Hoover upright to add to my collection. This here is a Hoover Spectrum upright vacuum, or most people will probably know this vacuum better as is the Hoover Elite and Hoover Elite Supreme. Basically, one of the several variants of the Hoover Elite upright. This is one of the definitely higher end square hood styles, I like to call these now. Hoover hard bag Elite style upright, which for whatever reason took the name from one of their older canisters that they made back then. Which Hoover had a very odd naming system somewhere around the mid-90s. I do remember they had some models of the Elite branded convertible for whatever reason, which those obviously replaced the convertible, their predecessor, and which, if any of you get those kind of vacuums, I suggest calling those convertible Elites. Emphasis on Elite because of the design. Then there was another version called the Decade. There was a Decade Soft and Light, and there was a Decade Supreme, which the Decade's obviously another version of the Hoover convertible. And then we have this Hoover Spectrum, which is obviously their canisters. There's a bunch of other names that Hoover used on their uprights back then that basically you remember some of their classic Hoover uprights or Hoover canisters, but nonetheless, it's still an Elite machine either way. This is very resembling to my maroon Hoover Preferred that I featured in another video. I will go ahead and link to that vacuum in the description box so you can see what that one's like. It's essentially a maroon version of this with a different name. This being one of the higher end Hoover Elite style uprights, it's got the hard bag and it's got the big deluxe handle cover. The story of how I got this vacuum, I honestly had no intentions of getting another Hoover Elite. There were only like 2 other models that I were after. I'm after a hard bag blue Hoover Encore Supreme and maybe a black Hoover Runabout Supreme, since those were obviously childhood vacuums, and I would love to add those to the collection. But anyway, what stumbled upon this, I bought this on eBay for only $20, which was about as cheap as I bought my old Elite Supreme. I will link the video to that vacuum in the description so you can check it out. I got this for only 20 bucks. The sellers said that the brush hole didn't spin, which, come to find out, is because it had a snapped belt. Which, go figure, the reason why these perfectly good old school Hoovers would be thrown out onto the curb or sold on eBay for worst case for parts. The only time I'd recommend selling one of these for parts is if something bad were to happen to the motor and you can't get replacements for it, which is an unfortunate state for these, but thankfully eBay sells a lot of new old stock parts for these vacuums. So luckily they're letting the spirits of these vacuums live on through organ donors, which I'm glad they do, because I love these Elite style uprights. And even though they're entirely made out of plastic and they're not as well built as some of their predecessors, these definitely are better built than even the Chinese junk Hoover makes today. But anyway, we'll walk through. Let's go and show you the bag. This being any typical Hoover Elite, it's got your Type A bag. This particular one, I am running a generic HEPA Type A bag just for extra filtration. Which, another thing I would like to point out, these hard bag Elites definitely didn't have as good of filtration as their soft bag counterparts did. Because the soft bag ones, the outer bag acted as pretty much a second filter. These just use the bag as a filter and nothing else. So Unfortunately, admittedly, filtration on these hardbag models aren't the best, but I still like their design a little bit better than the soft bags. Anyway, right here, it traps 100% of dust mites and their eggs. It has allergen filtration, 99.98% of ragweed pollens and common grass pollens. Cleaning fact, this Hoover upright outcleans all bagless vacuums. That is a true fact. Tested per the American Society for Testing Materials. Test number that. But anyway, yeah, I really like it that they put this fact down, because this is a well-known fact that these things outclean any bagless vacuum or even any modern vacuum in that case. Right here, you do have your 4-position carpet height adjustment. These do get very flimsy over time, which I like to keep this on the middle setting for the pile of my carpet. Which right here is your old school Hoover lettering up front. It's got brushed edge cleaning. It uses only 7.2 amps, so it's pretty energy efficient. And the cleaning effectiveness per amp is rated at 18. I have no idea why Hoover did this. I'm convinced this is more to make the higher end models look prettier on shelf with putting higher numbers, so people think these vacuums perform better, when in reality these basically are the same thing under the skins. All you get is just different bag covers and different hood design and different brush roll. And which, speaking of brush roll, I did replace the brush roll when I got this. I have a replacement Cleveland Wood Products brush roll that, as you can see, is a lot different in design than the genuine brush roll these came with. The sole plate on this is not original. I just threw this on because I felt like this particular style sole plate complements the brush roll a bit better than the original metal cage one that this came with. The bristles are very long and fairly soft. They're not as stiff as the genuines, but they still groom very good. Even though this may not agitate as good as the genuine brush roll, the high suction and airflow more than makes up for this. And let's go ahead and flip this thing to the side. Oh, there's an unfortunate fix I had to do when I got this. The back end kind of broke off, so I just fixed that with Gorilla Glue. Luckily, the piece of the bumper still holds on pretty good with it on. So let's go ahead and show you the model number right quick. It's Hoover Cleaner model U5097-930, 120 volts, 60 hertz, 7.2 amps. Now, to serial date these vacuums, the first 4 digits I could definitely tell you are the month and the year that this was made. So this vacuum was manufactured in January of 1999. Wow, I'm actually surprised that this thing's that new. Heck, even I'm older than this thing is. This thing's probably about as old as my brother, which, by the way, you can hear him laughing in the background very loudly. Always when I'm trying to make a video. But anyway, other than that, this is for household use only and made in the good old US of A. Hallelujah. That's one thing I love about these old Hoovers. Forget the wind tunnels. Those are made in Mexico. At least the older ones were. So anyway, the carpet adjustment switched over on low while I had the thing turned on its side. But anyway, right here, this being one of the higher end style Elites, it does have a flexible hose mounted on the side. This isn't one of those ones where it has the permanently fixed hose. You actually have to pull this out and then stick it down into the head of the vacuum in order to use your hose. This vacuum didn't come with any of its attachments, unfortunately. I just robbed these from other vacuums just for the sake of this video. So there's your dusting brush. Obviously on the side you got your extension wand right next to the hose, crevice tool, and your upholstery tool. Pretty generic Hoover style. So now let's go ahead and release the power cord, which is a fairly long 30-foot cord. It's definitely not the longest compared to cords on newer vacuums you can get these days, but it's fairly long, and it's definitely not in the 20-foot range. Those are practically useless. You could barely get to all corners of your house without even having to stop and unplug. So it's nice having a little bit longer of a cord for that reason. So anyway, let's go ahead and turn this vacuum on and demo it for you guys. The power switch is down onto the side, typical Hoover Elite fashion. This is basically a plastic rod that runs down into the main rocker switch in the valley of the motor, which I honestly somewhat like that Hoover did this. This is a nice way so you don't electrocute yourself, and Hoover made it simplistic by keeping all the wiring inside the motor. But it's kind of oddly designed when you think about it, because they could have just ran electrical wires all the way up here to a regular style rocker switch. But other than that, this is what you got to work with, and it kept all the wiring together, and there's nothing else but inside the motor of the vacuum. But I digress. So anyway, also in typical Elite fashion, these things are pretty loud when they're running, so just a warning for you headphone users. So away we go. Not even pushing. And see, it propels itself. Who needs self-propelled? exceptionally smooth. Definitely runs good after I did a belt change on this. If any of you probably remember seeing the video I made on this exact same vacuum when I was doing a belt change. So I will link that video as well in the video description. So anyway, before we end the video, I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate the tools. So just flip this little trap door up here, and then you just stick this end down in. Now you can use your hose. Unfortunately, since this is a direct air vacuum, don't expect miracle suction power. The suction is pretty dismal. At least it's low enough to do drapes or any delicates. And this is just how long the hose is. Fairly decent length. And set the attachments back. Pull the hose out. And there you are. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video on the Hoover Spectrum upright vacuum. Be sure and stay tuned. Don't forget to like, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.